Hello and welcome. The total number of COVID-19 cases in India are around 3.6 lakhs. The number of deaths are around 3,293. It is very evident at this point that both these numbers do not reflect the true situation, and the real situation on ground is much, much worse and much, much bigger. The larger question that we are posing today is, how do we get a better handle on what's really going on? What is our testing capability today, particularly when compared to where we were in wave 1 that was in 2020? What is our testing capability and the complexity telling us about the nature of the progression of the virus itself? And are we able to find out, or are we able to see earlier signals than we could earlier? And as we look ahead, what is it that we can do on the testing side to essentially fight back with the virus, apart from all the other tools that we have, which could range from a vaccine to, of course, lockdowns and other such measures. To discuss this, I'm joined by an entrepreneur who's built a testing and laboratory business from scratch, Dr. Velumani, or Dr. A. Velumani, Managing Director of Thyrocare. Dr. Velumani, thank you very much for joining me. So before I get down to where we are today, as we reach the end of April 2021, tell us about your current capacity overall as a diagnostic laboratory, and what is your COVID-19 testing capacity?
Yes, on date, we have an ability to test 25,000 swabs a night in Mumbai, 5,000 in Delhi and 5,000 in Bangalore, which says we have a capacity of testing 35,000 swabs every day. So that is the capacity of even a single laboratory. I still feel capacity is not all that a big problem in testing. The problem is how this 25,000 specimen will reach to the laboratory. The logistics of patient home to the laboratory under lockdown, with the panic and fear for the technicians to venture out, has proved to be a big challenge.
Right. So let's take Mumbai, where your headquarters are as well, in Navi Mumbai, that adjoins Mumbai. So tell us about the split between the number of samples or swabs that you're collecting at homes and the number of swabs that are being collected as people who walk into your testing centers.
We are in Navi Mumbai, so walking into our test centers is hardly 1%. We have a B2B operation where the big hospitals, small hospitals who don't have their own testing facility, but they can collect from the patients, are our clients. So we get around 65% collected swab, 35% we collect the swabs. In this 65%, almost half is government business. So if you ask me, since I am not in the core city and I am outside, my reach to homes is limited, and that should be around 30% maximum in this acute pandemic panic environment.
Right. And how many testing centers do you have via your partners?
No, that was limited in the first wave. The second wave, we have created a concept known as kiosk collection facility, where any hospital which has in front of it a space of what you call as ATM space, we put up a kiosk there. I'll tell you one more challenge this wave is facing. There was a capacity in Mumbai to do 50,000 swabs per day in the first wave. Then it gave some reprieve. But today, especially some 10 days back, when lockdown was not announced, when everybody had to fly, the need went up to 200,000 swabs a day, which means 4x, which means we don't have swab collection solution. So if a technician goes to home to do a home service, he cannot collect more than 10, 15 a day. But if there is a kiosk And if the patient in 1 and 2 kilometer radius can walk to that kiosk, the kiosk can collect even 100 samples using one technician. So
Right.
we have only in this last 10 days requested hospitals to give facility and requested government authorities to operate a kiosk. And that proves to be a solution for collection challenges which laboratories are facing.
Right. And roughly what percentage of the Navi Mumbai capacity would you represent today in terms of total diagnostic capacity, Dr. Velumani?
40% maximum and 15% minimum.
So did you say 40% maximum and 15 minimum?
20% maximum.
20.
Because there are laboratories, almost 100 laboratories. They are small in size. There are 3 or 4 laboratories who have capability to do more than 10,000. So we should not be more than 20% in the total city market.
Right. Now, a lot of samples also therefore come to you from outside and much further away, maybe hundreds of kilometers away.
Yeah, we do have business coming from Jharkhand, Uttarakhand, Goa. These are all government business. Governments do collect specimen and government's capacities are limited. And if there is an overflowing load, so they find some player who have better capacity and they don't ask for a tender. They tell in this rate, can you do it? And then we realize that currently the floor has some capacity unutilized. So we accept it and do it irrespective of the rate is too low. But I must tell we are having business coming from 17 out of the total number of states in the country. But I must tell 50% of the business is Maharashtra.
For you. Right. So now, suppose you said 35, 5 and 5. So suppose you're getting 45,000 swabs. How many people would be, or how many lab technicians are required to process this, and how has that number been changing or not changing in the last 6 months?
The testing is we have a per 1,000 this many people needed, per 1,000 this many square feet needed, per 1,000 this much of analyzer cost. So there is a fixed per 1,000 investment cost as well as HR cost. By scaling, you don't get any additional advantage, except that when you have a broad bandwidth, when a specimen 2,000 comes to the floor, you can clear in even 3 hours. So it gives a comfort to clear big workloads. It doesn't truly offer any advantage when you have too big laboratory. As I said, unit economics is unit economics. Right. And if you want me to give, if you want me to give the absolute, go ahead.
Please do.
I have processed in a day maximum 25,000 specimen, and we have around 150 technicians on the floor completing that. So that is the absolute number. Right.
And so now let's come to the time that it takes to process. There are obviously delays being seen now. So when you say 150 technicians and 25,000 swabs, does that mean, or rather, what kind of turnaround time is that?
The turnaround time, if you follow strictly first in, first out logic, this is very important. The first in, first out, if you follow it, is a turnaround time of 200 minutes, 3.5 hours. So we have a turnaround time of somewhere around 4 hours for the complete business. So people telling that for last 2-3 days, the floor is not clearing and they are delaying is happening with the small laboratories. Big laboratories don't have that problem. So as long as your inflow to the gate is streamlined to what we call as 1,000 swabs per hour, laboratory has an ability to clear on the 5th hour 1,000 reports per hour. So this is pure like an airport. It's a logistics which is deciding.
Right. And at this point of time, I can see, of course, that Mumbai numbers, for instance, are falling and rising, or and have been falling in the last week. But would you say that you're getting the maximum number of samples that you can process at this particular point of time?
I must tell you, just before the lockdown was announced, there was a kind of crisis. The crisis was medical need was growing, travel needs were parallel, and the government of Maharashtra said all frontline workers must have an RT-PCR positive report in hand. So that amplified 5x. Because of which, that week, our floor also had more samples than what it could process. But subsequently, lockdown was announced, and they relaxed that rule of frontline workers must have RT-PCR. Subsequently, the floor has become reasonably empty. Today, we are having around 16, 17,000 for our capacity of 25,000 in Mumbai.
And this is Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore, Dr. Velumani?
No, 16,000 in Mumbai alone, out of 25,000 capacity. And Delhi is 5,000 fully running. Bangalore is 5,000 recently started, so 50% is running.
Right. So you're saying that you're not experiencing, at least at this point, any delays. I mean, from the point the sample arrives at the gate, which of course, as you said, could come from anywhere in the country. But from the time it comes to your gate, you're saying about 200 minutes to produce a result, which could be emailed back to whoever has sent it.
The comfort we had, we accommodated last week 5,000 from Jharkhand and 5,000 from Goa without affecting the local reporting CAT.
So you're saying 200 minutes, right? So you're saying 200 minutes is the average then, Dr. Velumani, for turnaround, even at this point?
Minimum 200, maximum 300 today.
Minutes.
Minutes.
Right. So when people talk about, results coming after many days, what could be the reason for that?
Yeah, there are some reasons, I must tell you. Even for us, if we take what we call as horrible 5, out of the so many samples we received, which 5 samples went totally wrong? We call it as horrible 5. There are samples. Now, these samples were sent to us without data, sent to us without any kind of inputs for us to comply to ICMR. We can't test if we don't have the KYC of the patient. And the man who collected had not bothered about it, like a blood sample, he just put it inside and send it. We can't test it. And we are struggling like us. There are all laboratories struggling. These are all challenging of training for the collecting hospitals. Number 2, ICMR today is demanding 40 different fields to be entered in the computer before you release the report. So the testing time plus data entry time is taking sometimes additional almost half an hour per sample in the normal routine. These 2 things are the pains which are probably every laboratory is facing. But if the sample comes with a clean data, and if there is enough capacity in the floor, I think we have reported next day morning report for almost 99% of the samples for the last 1 year.
Right. Okay. So let me come now to the report itself, or what we see in the report. So as you know, many people are saying, including doctors, that patients are exhibiting symptoms and yet the reports are not showing positive, and are also now being treated as COVID, assuming that it's COVID, because one is, of course, the results of the report might be delayed, but even if the report comes, sometimes it still shows a negative, whereas in all probability, it is positive. So from how are you seeing that from a more biotechnical perspective?
See, ever since I started my laboratory, this complaint is always there. Doctor believes his symptoms are quite obvious, but the laboratory is not reporting. We don't know what is the doctor's expectation. We report what is the machine producing the number. So this has been there non-COVID days, but not very frequently. But this COVID, when it knocked us in last March, it was chaotic. People with symptoms did not show positive result. People without symptoms showed positive results. So obviously this virus, when it is in the body, it produced a spectrum of symptoms from very mild to highly serious symptoms. So it's not that simple for a doctor to tell it. Having said that, RT-PCR test is a Nobel Prize winning technology and has been seen as a golden standard in laboratory when no other test can confirm. A PCR test can confirm because it looks for the genetic material inside. So if it is positive, in the tube, you cannot manufacture anything because this is polymerase chain reaction means it only amplifies. It only amplifies what is inside. So there are no false positives at all. There are some false negatives. There are technicians who come for collecting. If they don't collect the specimen properly, there won't be a virus inside the tube and you might be reported negative. This could be happening, but that should happen in maximum 2% in an inexperienced laboratory and much lesser in an experienced laboratory.
Right. So you're saying that as far as you are concerned, as a diagnostic laboratory, there is no chance that even despite all the mutations and changes in the SARS-CoV-2 virus, that your assessment of the positivity has changed or could have changed?
I think 99.5% is completely reliable. 0.5% is always a room for error. Any laboratory test for that matter.
Right, but you're saying that error could be because of something else. But you're saying the core
technology is strong. Technology is strong. Collection procedures could be erroneous.
Right. So, for instance, you use reagents, which I understand, and you were quoted saying just a couple of days ago that you're running short of. Now, could it be possible that the reagents you use or any of the other inputs into that actual testing, the testing capability is not matching up or not keeping up to the virus in its current form?
I think the control of what kits should be sold in the country is with the government. If it is not listed by the government, they can't sell it in the country. So that is number one check. And there are kits which look for one gene. There are some who look for 2 genes, and there are 3 genes kits available in the marketplace. There is a very slight difference, additional cost for a 3 gene kit. From the second month of the pandemic till today, we are using 3 gene kit. A 3 gene kit having an error possibility is very, very remote, given this technology is very sturdy, very reproducible. So I don't think in even ordinary laboratories, everybody is today using a good kit. And I must remind you here, every month we are supposed to send 10 positive specimen, 10 negative specimen to NIV. NIV should give a score 10 out of 10 positive, 10 out of 10 negative. And every month we collect it because this is the only confidence we have that we are not reporting anything wrong. And this is followed by all laboratories. And I don't want anybody to suspect, in spite of this much of controls, the laboratories may not be producing quality result is not a true suspicion.
But you're saying that we in India in general and laboratories like yours are using the best in class kits to test, and therefore therefore the question really is, in some ways I'm seeking an assurance that when we send you samples, there is no chance of error, particularly as the virus mutates from time to time and country to country.
In that way, this is molecule. This is RNA, and this is the sequence which decides what decides that as COVID virus is signature. And if you have captured 3 locations in the gene and you are creating a kit, I must tell you the chances of it going wrong is 1 in even 1,000. So there is no room for one to suspect.
Okay. As we look ahead, Dr. Velumani, we are still in the middle of this pandemic. In some cases, or rather some regions or cities, the numbers seem to be easing off a little, Mumbai being a good example. In other places, not yet. What's your sense? I mean, from a pure testing and as a scientist, how would you, what do you feel would help us understand and respond to this virus and its spread faster?
See, if you notice in the laboratory, we have noticed in the month of last April till October, the percentage positive, not absolute positive, percentage positive had regularly very reproducible and moving up. And then it started moving down from October to January. It started at 5%, went to 40%, came down to 5%. That means the peak is over. But in the second wave, from 5%, it has gone to 40% so rapidly. And though Mumbai sounds, the number of positive cases are less, the percentage positive has not come down. See, we stopped traveling. So testing has come down. So if you ask me personally from the laboratory floor, the percentage has not come down even in Mumbai. I still feel Delhi is moving up. So if you ask me what is my sense, to be very honest, no scientist, no virologist, no immunologist truly can say predictably what would happen. But the lockdown will freeze the situation going worse from there. And it might take months for us to see the numbers coming down. यूं ही लॉकडाउन लगाया, immediately number coming down is too good to believe, and we need to cautiously read the numbers.
Right, and even at this point of time, a lot of people do panic. They see, as you said, false negatives. They do repeated testing, and sometimes it comes as negative, and then suddenly positive, or positive, and then negative. It seems to have no connection with what they're physiologically experiencing at that point. So again, I mean, to a normal person who's watching this, what would you tell them? I mean, because you are saying that you're confident about what is happening in the laboratory. So what would you advise people who are facing or getting responses? I mean, I'm talking about test responses, which they're not able to logically understand.
There are some metabolic disorders which, if it is positive, like thalassemia positive, lifelong it will not change. And those things you can always debate that was wrong in the laboratory. There are some illness like tuberculosis, which takes 60 days, 90 days of treatment, then only it becomes negative. And until such period, it will remain positive. So there is a kind of expected. HIV positive, you have to treat and then it becomes negative after a long time. In case of COVID, literally after 25 days, either virus is alive or the man is alive. That means this virus is a very short-lived virus, number one. At some point of time, everybody was negative. And one day, some people will become positive. You can't tell, yesterday I was negative, today I am positive. How can this be? So this is one point have to be kept in mind. You have become positive. You were negative, but today you have become positive. And you test it, you are positive. After 3 days, you test it again, it's negative. How is that somebody is reporting wrong? The punchline I used to explain for even internally our people is, every positive was negative in the previous day. Every negative was positive in the previous day. So scientifically, it is not, technologically, it can't be told it is a laboratory error. It is the character of the virus progress and its presence.
Right. Last question, Dr. Velumani. As you look ahead, what is it that you are anticipating or expecting in terms of technology inputs, which you would desire, for instance? policy, and policy could be to do with, let's say, pricing. It could be to do with freeing up more resources, or any other aspect that would actually make the quality of your testing and its reach much more. And also, as an addition to that, what is the kind of capacity projection that you have in mind for your own laboratory?
Yeah, the big challenge this virus has posed to the government as well as to the hospitals and laboratories is inconsistent demand. In the month of September, we felt that the demand will keep on going up. We were willing to invest. We had invested also a lot. But then it suddenly came down, whether it was brought down artificially or it was truly a wave nature which the virus has. I have no scientific explanation. Now, suddenly I want 4 times more capacity of what I had in September is taking time. So the first point is unexpected demand of the test. This is number 1. Number 2, government has recklessly brought down the rates from 4,500 to some states 450 rupees. Now, if you don't leave anything on the table, there won't be a motivation for a laboratory to invest crores. To invest for additional 1,000, I need 1 crore. And if tomorrow, if that demand goes off, my crore is gone. No one is going to worry about me. These are all challenges, assurances which no one gives. The next point is the testing cost is far less. Collecting costs are far high because your cost outside the gate to reach to the customer, the consumables, everything is costly. So there is a challenge of how to explain every cost to a government agency so that they understand what it is. And
what's the proportion, Dr. Velumani, of logistics and actual testing today, roughly?
Not only today, from the day 1, it's 60% for collection, 40% for testing.
Right.
So that is the kind of expenditure involved. So the last but not the least, if there is something which will help the laboratory, all government hospitals should collect the swab. Tell the laboratories at this rate, pick it up. Laboratories will pick it up. Any capacity they can create, as long as you tell next 6 months, I can give you this much. So these are all a few challenges. But having said that, the message for the common man is vaccine is the only way out, not the lockdown. Lockdown is a paracetamol, reduces the temperature. It is not the cure. So the cure is either a herd immunity which should set in adequately, or before that, we can add a vaccination. I think expediting vaccination should be the core focus for the government. Chasing for your date should be core focus for every citizen. I think it will be taking some more time. But let me tell you, it's going to be a long battle. It is not a battle of even months or quarters. It is for years.
Right. Long marathon and not a sprint. Dr. Velumani, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your thoughts and vision, and do hope to circle back to you soon. Thank you very much.